Jai Shri Ram. On Sati. Whenever the topic of Sati is raised, Hindus feel very uncomfortable and defensive. But most of us don't know that this was simply a symbolic act. I am reading out the verse from Rig Veda, 10th chapter, 10th mandala, 18th sukta, 8th mantra, interpreted by Sri R.L. Kashyap. Now, Sri R.L. Kashyap is a professor emeritus of Purdue University, Indiana in USA, and he is a very renowned Vedic scholar. He is a recipient of many international awards. He also received the Vedanga Vidwan Award, including instituted by Maharshi Sandipani Veda Vidya Pratishthan, Ujjain, and he has authored more than 350 research articles. So, he is a person who has interpreted the Vedas. He is the trustee and honorary director of Sri Aurobindo Kapali Shastri Institute of Vedic Culture, Bangalore. So, I am reading from his book. And this, like I already said, 10th mandala, 10.18.8, Rig Veda. Translation done by Sri R.L. Kashyap is, "Rise, woman, come to the world of the living. Come, the man near you is lifeless. You have been united, Sambhabhutaha, as the wife of this husband, the suitor who took you by the hand." Now, R.L. Kashyap clearly interprets and reports that Shayanacharya misinterpreted this word Sambhabhuta to mean that the wife of the dead person wants to embrace death along with the dead one. And R.L. Kashyap clearly points out that the context does not support Shayanacharya. So, 10.18.8 on Sati in the Rig Veda, it is clear, and of course, the Vedic Sanskrit is very difficult to pronounce. Anyway, I will just read it out so that you can have the pleasure of listening to it. Udirshva naryabhi jivalokam gatasuma etamupa shesha ehi hastagrabhasya didishoho tavedam patyur janitvamabhi sambhabhutha. So, this Sambhabhuta has been misinterpreted by Shayanacharya, who was a great scholar during the time of Krishna Deva Raya. And he, unfortunately, he interpreted the Vedas entirely in a ritualistic manner, and this was taken as the base by all the Western scholars, who conveniently then condemned the Vedas as books of barbaric rituals and Hindus as very primitive people. So, Shayanacharya and all these Max Muller and all those Griffith and all those Western scholars have completely misunderstood, misread, and because they are not scholars in the first place. And of course, Shayanacharya was indeed a scholar, but for some strange reason, he failed to look at the philosophical side and he misinterpreted even the verses. So, Dayananda Saraswati is also very clear. So, here on Sati, we Hindus have to understand that there is no need to be defensive. And by the way, in any debate with a Muslim, Christian, or a communist, or anyone who is attacking Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism, our first response should be, listen, please leave us alone, because we are not telling you that ours is the only path and you have to either convert to our religion or we will kill you. This is found in both the Bible and the Quran. The Bible and the Quran are aggressively proselytizing religions, and history is testimony to that. So, there have been 9 crusades. So, jihad and crusade, holy war. So, the crimes committed by Islam and Christianity are easily understandable if you look at history. Whereas Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma does not say we will either convert you or kill you. In which case, we are actually saying that maybe yours is also right, so please leave us alone. So, they don't have a right to criticize us. Whereas we Hindus should tell them that, listen, when you are saying that yours is the right path and the only path and ours is wrong, we have every right to ask you few questions and also criticize you if the logic is not sound. So therefore, we have a right to criticize you, but you have no right to criticize us, because we are not saying either convert or be ready to die. So that's the first thing you must understand. Next, on Sati, I am reading out from this book, A Concise Encyclopedia of Hinduism, Volume 3 by Swami Harshananda. There are actually 4 volumes. 4 volumes written by Swami Harshananda. Concise Encyclopedia of Hinduism, Swami Harshananda, Ramakrishna Math. Now, in this, in volume 3, on Sati, page number 249, it starts. Swami Harshananda has written extensively. Now, of course, I have some objections even with Swami Harshananda here. And the objection is, straight away I will tell you. Swami Harshananda is praising Raja Ram Mohan Roy as a person who fought against this abominable custom. The truth of the matter is, Raja Ram Mohan Roy was first of all not a Raja. This title was conferred on him by Queen Victoria, because he wrote a letter to Queen Victoria saying that only Christianity can save Hindus. And Queen Victoria forwarded this detailed letter of Raja Ram Mohan Roy, this actually rogue Ram Mohan Roy, to Macaulay. So I believe Macaulay was the person who was entrusted this task to look into the matter, and Macaulay immediately sensed an opportunity. So here is an opportunity to destroy this culture and impose English culture. And Macaulay's speech, if you have not read, it is easily available on YouTube. So Macaulay was a person who believed that Hindus can be dominated only when they are made to feel inferior about themselves. Only when Hindus begin to loathe, hate their own culture, only then they can be dominated. So English was forced on us. English was thrust on us. And Macaulay also wrote the Indian Penal Code, which we are still using. You see, we should be ashamed of ourselves. The Indian Penal Code and the education system designed by Macaulay basically meant to create Macaulay Putras and Macaulay Putris who have a colonial mindset. Now, the phrase colonial mindset simply means believing that the invader's culture is superior, and because they were superior, they conquered us. So these are called Macaulay Putras, that is called a colonial mindset. And so this Macaulay was basically a rascal. And now, so they seized on this opportunity. Raja Ram Mohan Roy incidentally was a closet Christian. He is buried in Bristol. A Hindu his body will be cremated, not buried. And this fellow, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, is buried in Bristol, which is somewhere near London. So he is a closet Christian. So he is a hidden Christian. And he clearly wrote to Queen Victoria that only Christianity can save India. So unfortunately, Nehru, of course, glorified this fellow. And many learned people are also completely taken in by the propaganda. And in fact, we were taught lessons that he is a great reformer and all that. See, Sati, for your information, there is a lot of historical evidence to support this. Sati, in 1900, only around 1917 or so, Roop Kanwar in Rajasthan was one incident. And details about that I don't recollect right now. But Raja Ram Mohan Roy painted a very dismal picture as if Sati was happening regularly in Bengal. Sati was happening in Rajasthan because Muslim invaders, Muslims, and especially Prophet Muhammad also, in Kanz-ul-Ammal, you can check up, that is a hadith, in which Prophet Muhammad has sex with the dead body of his aunt. So he started this tradition of necrophilia. You should be shocked to hear this. And in Egypt, a Muslim country, there is a law that allows a man to have sex with his dead wife up to 6 hours after death. So this is their culture. So necrophilia was there. And so In Rajasthan, the women did not want even their dead bodies to be polluted by these rascals. That is why they jumped into the fire. So, this is an act of courage, not to be condemned. It was not happening in any other place. Or, in case if it did happen, it was condemned by many Hindu reformers. And the Veda never supported it. None of the Shastras, except one or two, solitary exception is Vishnu Dharma Sutras. And Manusmriti also condemned it. And even in the Vishnu Dharma Sutras, as Swami Harshananda mentions here, committing sati was a choice given to the widow and it was not compulsory. So, in the epics also, there are many cases of queens and wives of the deceased kings burning themselves on the funeral pyre. But this was always a voluntary act and it was not highly extolled. Incidentally, Dr. P.V. Kane, in his monumental work of Dharmashastra, History of Dharmashastra, Volume 2, he says, modern India does not justify the practice of sati, but it is a warped mentality that rebukes modern Indians for expressing admiration and reverence for the cool and unfaltering courage of Indian women in becoming satis or performing jauhar, for cherishing their ideals of womanly conduct. If Englishmen can feel pride in their ancestors who looted one-fourth of the world's surface, in fact more I think, who grabbed one-fourth of the world's surface, or if Frenchmen can feel pride in the deeds of their Emperor Napoleon who tried to enslave the whole of Europe, and yet they are not held up to ridicule or rebuke, there is no reason why the poor Indians cannot express admiration for the sacrifices of these women made in the past in those terrible conditions. Though they condemn the institution itself, which demanded such terrible sacrifice and suffering. These are the words of P.V. Kane. I would like to add, you see, they are very quick to condemn this, but if you look at their own holy books and the crusades and the jihads and millions who have been slaughtered, they have no right to mention this. In other words, my analogy would be that is cancer and this is a mere pimple. So you can't compare a pimple with a cancer, okay? Further, Swami Harshananda provides us some more information, so which I will quickly read out. Swami Harshananda says that the practice of widow burning is not peculiar to Hindus only. European scholars like Schrader, in his prehistoric antiquities of the Aryan people, he mentions that this practice was there among ancient Greeks, Germans, Slavs and other races. A.L. Basham, in his work The Wonder That Was India, page 188, says that the custom dates back to the earliest cultures and notes that it existed among the kings of Ur, Chinese, the ancient Chinese, and some early Indo-European people. They used to either burn or bury a man's widow along with his horses and other cherished possessions with his corpse, in order that he might have all that he loved and needed in the other world. So this was there. The word sati comes from the root word sat, the truth. So therefore sati actually means a woman who is true to her ideals, and the Indian tradition has placed chastity and personal purity as the highest ideal of Indian womanhood. Even as it is so for men also, same thing. Any woman who has risen to the heights of this ideal is a sati. And the best example is Sati herself, also known as Dakshayani. Now, when Daksha, her father, insulted Shiva and her husband in the sacrificial site before a large gathering, she resolved to give up her body in protest, as per the accounts given in the Bhagavatam also, 4.4. She sat in deep meditation and burnt her body to ashes in Yogagni. She burnt her body in Yogagni, or the fire generated by yogic meditation. So Sati gave up her body voluntarily in yoga and she did not jump into the sacrificial fire, as is often made out in all these films and all that. And her husband Shiva had not died also. So, if any woman is capable of giving up her body in yogic meditation, unable to stand the insults to her husband and herself, now that is an indeed admirable quality. Nevertheless, we are not encouraging that. Our Shastras, the Vedas, say that human birth is extremely valuable and we should utilize it to realize the goal of life, which is to see God. So, the Vedas do not even recognize the difference between man and woman as a fundamental difference. They say that it is an incidental difference owing to the respective karma of the individual Jivatma. Because the Jivatma does not have any sex. The Jivatma does not have any gender. Based on the karma, one is born either a man, woman, or whatever species and all that. So the Vedas are also very clear. Of course, there must have been many people who took advantage of the ignorance of the general public, and for their own reasons they would have misled and looted these people with all these dangerous barbaric practices. Finally, Swami Harshananda, in the conclusion, he says, there is a popular saying that marriages are made in heaven. If it is so, then let our widowed sisters and mothers wait for their marriages to be continued or dissolved in heaven by the power that made them. And therefore, let them live happily here till they go to that heaven on their own. Jai Shri Ram.